The Tory leadership race has now officially begun as Rishi Sunak formally stood down as leader of the Conservative Party. Shadow Home Secretary James Cleverly has strongly indicated that he will throw his hat into the ring, whilst Kemi Badenoch, Suella Braverman, Tom Tugendhat, Priti Patel and Robert Jenrick are also expected to be some of the runners and riders for the top job. There will also be internal debates within the Conservatives on the direction they should take going forward, with the party losing votes to Labour, Reform UK and the Lib Dems at the last general election. Let's now speak with GBNews' political correspondent Catherine Fawcett. I'm also joined by the Conservative MP for Wetherby and Easingwood. Welcome to the show, the pair of you. Let's start with you, Catherine. So, November, for starters, is a long time away. A lot of people felt that Rishi Sunak might do a David Cameron and fall on his sword the following day. That isn't the case. What's the logic in having such a protracted leadership bid?
Yeah, it's a very long time, isn't it? And as always within the Conservative Party, not everybody is happy about this. Some people think that it's very self-indulgent and there'll be lots of sort of public infighting, etc., etc. But more broadly, many of them feel that they need to take the time to take stock properly about what has gone wrong and how they can rebuild and what sort of party they need to be going forward. And the thinking is, get whoever wants to put themselves forward now. They'll need 10 MPs, have lots of events over the summer, get it down to 4 at the beginning of September. Those 4 go off to conference, have like a beauty parade, if you like. Then MPs will whittle that down to 2. And then at that point, the members get the final say, as of course they did with Liz Truss. Worth pointing out, of course, that the Conservative Party membership is traditionally to the right of where many of the MPs are. I think a lot of the MPs will want some sort of unity candidate that can appeal to people who've gone to the Lib Dems, because they've done very well, haven't they? And well, there'll be others that think they need to appeal to Reform voters. So I think it's going to be tricky. I'll be interested to see what Alec has to say.
Alec Shelbrooke, let's bring you in at this point. So the runners and the riders, the bookies' favourite at the moment, anyhow, is Kemi Badenoch at 6-4, Robert Jenrick in second at 4-1, Tom Tugendhat, more of a centrist proposition, 5-1, Priti Patel 6-1, James Cleverly 7-1, and then Suella Braverman now being pushed out quite severely, 14-1. The party has got a lot of problems, being squeezed from the right by Reform UK, being squeezed from the left by the Labour Party and the Liberal Democrats. First of all, what do you think, before we talk about the leader, what do you think the direction of the Conservative Party should be, Alec?
Well, it's got to be pragmatic. The Conservative Party has always been at its strongest when it's been pragmatic. It's got to get away from the silos, if you will, of the different, I think they were called the families at one point, the different groupings. It's got to be a Conservative Party. It's got to get back to small state, low taxes, governing for everybody, making sure that the middle-aged middle class want to vote for the Conservative Party. These are all things that have drifted away, not through any sudden moment, but they've drifted away. That's the reset we've got to be looking for. That's the pragmatism we've got to be looking for. And it's about recognising that we are the Conservative Party. We're not trying to be economically like Labour or perhaps international or socially like Reform, or take some of the liberally Lib Dem route. It's got to be something that appeals to the country, appeals to the people who shift their vote considerably over a period of time. I don't know what the issues are going to be in 4 years' time, but it's important that we have a leader who has the pragmatism and the wherewithal to be able to look at those issues when they come. I've had set up the operation behind that as we get there.
So my next question, Alec Shelbrooke, is blooming obvious. Who do you think should lead the party? Bear in mind, you're laying out a role for good old-fashioned Conservative.
Yep, and my opinion on that has been for a long time. I can give the exclusive here and now because nobody else knows, but my opinion's been for a long time, and I will be nominating Priti Patel.
OK, why?
Well, because, as I said, I think Priti has not just the pragmatic approach to all the issues I've just laid out, but she was also there, brought into CCHQ by Cecil Parkinson in 1997 about how to rebuild the Conservative Party after that defeat. You get this pattern in governments that after a long period of time in government, the structure starts to fall down. You think it would do the opposite, but it doesn't. You're so busy on governing, the structure falls down. That's task number one. But as I say, it's about, most important thing, being pragmatic. Look, Priti has had senior roles. She's respected on all wings of the party, and I think that's an important point. And it comes back to, we've got to have a Conservative leader representing the Conservative Party and get away from these different gangs that have formed and have been fighting with each other. The enemy's not within the Conservative Party. The enemy is the 174 Labour majority sitting opposite, who there's going to be a lot of people who didn't vote for us are starting to think, wow, this is not the direction I wanted my country to go in.
Catherine.
We hear a lot, don't we, that lots of Conservative voters sat at home or voted for reform because you weren't Conservative enough. But of course, Rishi Sunak, Jeremy Hunt would have said that they were fiscal Conservatives naturally, but that events, dear boy, intervened first with, the pandemic and the fact that furlough, and then with war in Europe. So we ended up with a bigger state and higher taxes. But how much of that really is the Conservative Party's fault? Because didn't they just have the misfortune to be in government at that point?
Well, I think there's a lot to be said in that, because I think if you look at Western governments around the world, most of them then went on to lose the next election. And I think COVID has a very long tail to it. But there is a world of difference between, we did raise taxes and the size of the state is expanded normally, and that has to change. But if we look at the government we've now got, they actually want to take that further just as a matter of policy. And that's what a Conservative Party, trying to become a Conservative government, has to clearly outline, that big state and big taxes are not the way that you're going to prosper as a country. The country, as Margaret Thatcher said, it was the small shopkeeper syndrome. It was the small business syndrome. Balance the books, know what you're spending, know where it comes in. Profligate spending, having to raise taxes more and more, especially with an ageing population and that tax base decreasing and the costs going up. There is a balance to be had. You've got to grow your economy. Now, Labour talk about this all the time. Well, we're going to grow the economy, not put taxes up. Let's see how much that holds out in September.
Well, there's a long way to go. Alec Shelbrooke, thank you very much for making a pitch today for your choice. Priti Patel, Catherine Forster, of course, always a pleasure. Thanks to you both.